DL Hughley, Al Sharpton, Crump, Don Lemon. These guys hate black people. These are the tap dancers. They don't want to see you get ahead. They want to keep you dumb, emotional, and reactive. Every time something happens, they run to the camera to sell you the same story. It's either rage bait, victimhood, or everything is racist. When will you see it? See, to them, it's never about personal responsibility or being a good father or working hard to build something that lasts. Al Sharpton's been doing this dance for decades. And nothing's happened. The black community's still broke and broken. All right, Crump only shows up when the check's clear. Don Lemon and DL Hughley, forget about it. They just show up on TV and claim every disagreement is racist, just so that you never look in the mirror. They keep you emotional because an emotional man is easy to control. Facts. An irrational man is dangerous to their business model. Stop letting these professional victims keep you dumb. The plantation is mental now, and these are the overseers.
What's up, family? Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and check this out. And we're going to break this down, look at the different perspectives, and then I'll give my thoughts. Now, here's the thing. There is a conversation happening right now that a lot of people have been too scared to have, and it's finally coming to the surface. You got black folks, regular everyday people, looking at the camera and saying what we all know but don't say out loud about Al Sharpton, about Crump, about Don Lemon, about DL Hughley, and about this whole industry that's been built around keeping Black America stuck in a victim mentality. That's the topic. So let's get into it. Don't take my word for it, family. I want you to hear it for yourself. What these folks are saying is that these guys that I'm talking about, Al Sharpton, Crump, Don Lemon, who have lost and very much don't respect for how he ransacked the church in the name of content, disrespecting a spiritual place and a place for praise, worship, and also enriching each other in a supportive environment, such as a church community, being in church on their holy Sunday with their children and family members in a place of worship. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. I know I have been reading up on it. Don Lemon has been trying to do appeal after appeal after appeal, and it has been being denied. So I'm pretty sure accountability will be coming for him in due time. But DL Hughley, these are the tap dancers, they say. They don't want you to see, get ahead. They want to keep you dumb. Now let that sink in for a second. These are people who look like other black people and just people just like we all are. You know, I don't really like getting into the racial divisive rhetoric because we're all unique. And I look at the content of each other's character, not the color of each other's skin. But when you look at it, right, these individuals are on TV or, have their platforms who have made millions of dollars, and their entire business model depends on individuals staying emotional, you staying reactive and angry. And every time something happens, they run to the camera to sell you the same story. It's either rage bait, victimhood, or everything's racist, which is so exhausting and so compromising to the beauty of our country, within how far we came, within the beauty and the goodness of how unified and diverse we are within our communities. That's beautiful. And we should focus on how far we came. And you're going to hear someone say that in a clip that I'm going to play as we continue to go along with the video and have this conversation. And I'm not telling you what to think or how to think. We just having a productive conversation, respectfully. But here's what you never hear from them: personal responsibility. Right? You heard him, like being a good father, being a good mother, working hard to build something that lasts amongst our families, amongst each other, being productive citizens, assets to communities, embracing and loving each other, sharing ideas and being able to agree to disagree and not want to eradicate each other. But out of respect for human life and different opinions, we can learn from each other even if we agree to disagree and still spread that peace, love, and positivity I always advocate for after every video I say. But you never hear that, and there's a reason why. And now, to be fair, I'm not saying racism doesn't exist or didn't exist, which was the sins of this country, right? No country is perfect. I always say this. But that's not what this is. When you have a group of individuals who have made their entire careers or I should say certain individuals who made their entire careers off of telling you that the system is keeping you down while they themselves are multimillionaires living in gated communities, somebody has to ask the question, who's really being helped here? Al Sharpton has been doing this dance for decades. I mean, decades before I was even born. And what's happened? Communities still broken. You got Ben Crump, who only shows up when the check is clear to stir up more racial division, making it a black and versus white thing. Why do we have to do that? Out of respect for his expertise, Ben Crump, being an attorney, why can't we just respect the system and due process, but reform it so it's better no matter what the race is? But no, it just got to always be a racial tension case to get on it, to divide, and you get paid in the name of division. You got Don Lemon and DL Hughley, who just shows up on TV and claim every disagreement is racist, so that you never look in the mirror, or you can't have a difference of opinion to even learn the different perspectives and also embrace what you may not know from a different perspective. So they keep you emotional because an emotional person is easy to control. An irrational person is dangerous to their business model. Right? Think about it. If America suddenly woke up, as we are waking up more and more, we're getting there, I believe positively, starting businesses, stop buying into the victim narrative, started supporting each other more, started taking personal responsibility, what happens to their paychecks? What happens to their speaking fees? What happens to their book deals? Their entire existence depends on you staying exactly where you are. And that is where the big conversation starts to come in. We're talking about running into the victim Olympics, victimhood mentality that should be studied. Here we are in the beautiful United States of America. You know how it's like a dime in a dozen to be born and raised in America when so many people fight to come here to this beautiful freedom of United States of America with the freedom and liberties that we have here, such as a blessing, escaping regimes, having temporary protective status from their countries to come over here to, you know, be safe as a safe haven coming from the destruction of their own country and then embracing the beauties here and then have to go back and restore their country. The freest, most prosperous, most wealthiest nation to ever exist on God's green earth. And you have people out here telling you that anybody that will listen, that they are victims, that they are oppressed. Mind you, we have Canada who's sitting here like basically the lemonade stand to Costco, you know, the supermarket, or the little sister who was basically, or the little daughter, not sister, the little daughter who has basically been, and I'm speaking metaphorically, who has been spoiled inside of a rich parent's home where they actually have been protected from ICE, from our protections. And when the simple fact of them importing, them shipping their goods here to the United States and taxing us. But when they ship their things here, we don't put tariffs on Canada, but Canada put tariffs on the United States, but the United States haven't been putting tariffs on Canada in the name of basically sustaining themselves as a welfare line to continue to tax us to sell things in their country if to do so and charging us tariffs, but then they can sell their products over here in the United States freely. Listen where I'm going here. I'm basically saying we are so wealthy and it's such a blessing to be here in the United States of America. And we're so prosperous that we are helping keep other countries to be even able to be sustained. Like that little daughter that's been spoiled into their father's home, as America is the big dog who's helping protect other countries. We're talking about NATO as well, right? We're talking about Korea. You know, all of our allies who don't want to help us with Iran, but we protected them from getting overtaken from China. That's how prosperous we are. They need us as a lifeline to even be sustainable, but they never have been sovereign on their own like Canada. They always needed to be on the back of United States as us being a wealthier nation for them to even have a lifeline of any income to exist. You have people out here telling anybody that will listen that they are victims and they're oppressed. Now, I can appreciate somebody like Master P. He's a rapper, businessman, basketball coach at a university who was self-made, started with $10,000 that was gifted to him from his grandfather, and people always talk about, and, well, you never get anything passed down to you. Well, Master P did something and he turned that to $10,000 into a $100 million company, record labels and things like that. And he's out here telling people, you can go do it too. You can make it happen. The beauty of capitalism that they want to destroy, because these are a bunch of nagging bachelor degree holders in the Democratic Socialist of America Party, who's overtaking the Democratic Party. They're in a civil war amongst rhinos and establishments like Chuck Schumer and the young individuals who just want a movement to basically prop them up so they don't have to really do no hard work and really excuse them for their student loans and the decisions that they made and getting a degree that doesn't translate into the actual workforce to be valuable in this country. So they made the wrong decisions and they want to burn down the system of capitalism, which is just opportunities. If you have the right skills to translate to the market, you can always have skills that will pay you for a lifetime. Teach a man how to fish, he will eat forever. You fish for him, he will starve when he needs to eat again. So you got to be willing to put the work in. And most importantly, you can't do this being a victim. So I want you guys to hear it.
Somebody look like us say, hey, how come we don't own our own tennis shoe? When Nike started out of their garage. Like Phil Knight started out of his garage. And I tell people all the time, look, it's not about a color. Like think about it, even though when I help black-owned business, I'm doing that because we at the bottom of the totem pole. But we want to create product for everybody. This product is for everybody, blacks, white, Asian, Latino. But it don't have too many black-owned companies. Like, show me how many black-owned tennis shoe companies out there that's making functional shoes that actually own it. It's not that many. It's a problem.
Yeah.
So when I find a problem, you know, my passion get like, I need to do this. I got to show the world. In the food industry, I realized that we didn't have enough healthy alternative foods for us. So I found a problem. I created Miller Family Food. I said, well, you know, I got to make healthy alternative foods, snacks, everything.
Is that based out of New Orleans?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and so I was inspired by going to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And, you know, in the Black Wall Street, 1920, what happened to our people. And it's like you had so many successful, rich black people, and it was burned down. But I met this guy that owned a grocery store called Oasis.
Yeah, A.J. Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put my food in your grocery store, and I'm going to support you. We support all these other companies, but why not support Oasis and AJ?
He's doing good stuff in the community, and what you know about that store, as I've been down there, is that the predominantly of that area that's white is poor individuals, who, you know, and so I love the work that he's doing. But when you think about, again, being yourself, what's been the biggest surprise of the stardom? I mean, you've been in this game for a very, very long time. What's been the biggest surprise about it all?
Our own culture don't believe that we could do it, you know, because they just don't get it. They're like, how you could do this? I mean, like, if I could do it, anybody could do it. You don't have to be the smartest person in the world. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You just got to have integrity and do good business. And these doors will open up for you. Yep. Building great relationships. And I think that's the biggest thing for me, trying to get that negative mindset out of our culture, because they still going back to, oh man, slavery, they did us this. And I'm like.
Now he's speaking to a certain individual, and off the premise of black communities and black culture and the mindset. And I'm speaking, even though he has a point, but I'm speaking of it bigger than that this can be a premise for anybody, regardless of race, to have this mindset of victim mentality, feeling like they're owed something, feeling like they're entitled. Now, of course, there's different cultures. I'm not oblivious to that. And different cultures stem or have a stereotypical stem of what they use for the rhetoric from a cultivative mindset. Like, for example, he is saying black people have the mindset of where, oh, we got to use race as a way to absolve ourselves and put it into work, when we have came far from that, and we should embrace the beauty of how far we came and continue to move forward for the next generation and continue to be on the right side of history and learn from that mistake, which was the sin of this country, and no country is perfect, which I agree with. But also it could be the premise of individuals who have given up or have been in situations that have so challenging, and before they can get their head above water, they already quit on themselves. And then they run into the victim mentality, or life didn't turn out the way they wanted to based on the controllables. And you only can control yourself, right? And only can control the controllables. And at life, you won't always get what you want, but they'll sit there and burn the whole system down and have a victim mentality that people owe them things as well. And that goes for any race, is what I'm speaking to, bigger than what he's speaking to. But the same premise still has the common denominator of victim mentality, you know, basically blaming others and having a negative mindset, which is destructive for all communities, and feeling like you're old and entitled. And your situation is what make you, when it really doesn't. Someone can live in the hood but don't have to act like the hood. Someone could be in the ghetto around individuals, because really ghetto is just a behavior, right? It's an action of being reckless, destructive, unprofessional, vulgar, a lot of profanity, unpresentable, right? Just outlanders, you know, show a lot of nudity or not courtesy for other individuals in their environment. Just out there, however they want to be out there, and nobody can tell them anything. You know, hard-headed. That's just a behavior, right? It doesn't have to really be a race, because any race can be ghetto, you know? So I'm taking it a step bigger, because I speak for all of us together to be better as a country, to be better within our communities, as a people, and sharpening our characters, or upholding ourselves to have better character and continue to improve through the imperfections, and the perfection in that is improving as you evolve to see what you need to work on. But he does have a premise in where he's speaking from, but we're speaking the same way. And I just think it deems for a productive conversation we're having, family. So let me know what you think down in the comments so far.
Still hoping on that, man. I never hoped on that, because I can't change the past, but I can change the future. And I think you got to get used to us being successful. And I think a lot of us, we block our own blessings because we don't think that we could do it, because we're looking at a color. So, I mean, Muhammad Ali was a guy that, and I loved, like, his story, because he didn't care about that. He just wanted to be around good people, but he did represent for the culture. Right. And I want more African-American owned tennis shoe companies. I don't want this just to be me. I want so many different product brands owned by us, but making it for everybody. Because think about it, when other cultures make products, they don't make it for them, they make it for everybody. Yep. And so I want that mindset of our people. If I could change that, that's the way we're gonna bridge the wealth gap.
What's been the biggest negative surprise of it all? The biggest negative surprise of the stardom?
Our people can't work together. Think about when I go down Rodale Drive and see all these stores. They're owned by all the same kind of looking people. None of them fighting. None of them caring about what each other have or got. And I love that. I want to see that for our culture and our people. That's why I fight to educate our culture and our people. Because we got to get on that page. Like, if we get on that page, we're going to be dangerous, because we spend $1 trillion a year.
2.1 trillion.
2.1 trillion, think about it. And we don't own nothing.
What do children do? They spend their money on the things that they like. Right. And they beg their parents for the things that they need.
Is that not Black America? $2 billion on Air Jordans every year.
You're right.
$4 billion on liquor. $30 billion on hair and beauty. Nearly $1 billion on chicken, turkey, beef, and pork. Multiple billion on video games. Multiple million on children's cologne. But half the black boys in America in 4th grade can't read on their grade level.
That's a fact.
Half the black boys in America in 8th grade can't read on their grade level. But we spending $21 million on cologne. I don't excuse nothing another race does to my people. Because as a human being, you should be able to practice decency, whether you're dealing with a billionaire or somebody who's dead, broken, homeless on the street. You understand me?
Definitely.
But we have to look in the mirror, too, and look at how we make it easy for people to disrespect us. Because how does the people in your condition have the time to engage in this type of tomfoolery over here?
Yeah.
If I'm Chinese looking at Black America, how do I make sense out of this?
Right.
Y'all can't care about yourselves, because as much as you talk about reparations and as much as you talk about the next presidential election, look at the money you waste. Imagine a Korean walk into a black community meeting on reparations, a Korean, and stand up and say, "Can I ask y'all a question? Why y'all in here arguing over reparations when y'all done turned my people into $1 trillion nation?"
And you seen Master P, he was talking about like somebody who looks like us, right? He asked the question, how come we don't own our tennis shoe company when Nike started out of their garage? Phil Knight started out of garage, Master P said. Look, it's not about a color, even though he helps black-owned businesses, because we're at the bottom of the totem pole, he says, right? His product is for everybody, blacks, white, Asians, Latinos. But there aren't too many black-owned companies. I take it a step further and say there aren't too many more mom and pop shops and small businesses thriving when it comes to all companies, regardless of race, right? Shoe companies from actual stories from actual real families, which is the soul of America, being able to build yourself up from nothing and pull yourself by your bootstraps. The beauty of having those pastry shops and those restaurants, the mom and pop shops, regardless of race. So just imagine a shoe company example he used, and he talked about black-owned shoe companies, you know, but making functional shoes that actually own a company. It's not that many. And that's a problem. So when he finds a problem, his passion kicks in because he knows he can show the world something different. He did it in the food industry when he realized there weren't enough healthy alternatives. So he created Miller Family Food. He said, I got to make healthy snacks, everything. Then he talked about going to Tulsa, Oklahoma, you know, the Black Wall Street in 1920. And he says, what happened to the people? There are so many successful, rich individuals, and it was burnt down. But then this guy who owned a grocery store called Oasis, A.J. Johnson, and Master P said, you know what? I'm going to put my food in your store. I'm going to support you. Why not support each other within small local businesses within our community is the point. And that's what really got me when Master P said that. He said the biggest surprise about his success was that the culture doesn't believe that they can do it. They just don't get it. And they may look at him and say, how can you do this? And his response is simple. If I can do it, anybody can do it. You don't have to be the smartest person in the world. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You just got to have integrity and do good business. And those doors will open up for you. Build great relationships. That's the biggest thing. See, relationships will last you a lifetime. Good relationships more than anything. Because we can build each other up and support each other, which he encapsulate there in that story. But trying to get that negative mindset out, that's the fight. We all fight. Because individuals still go back to that victim mentality. Slavery, race, entitlement, owed, anger, rage. And Master P said it plain. I never hopped on that. I never hopped on the negativity. I can't change the past, but I can change the future. A lot of people stay stuck in the past and they're angry at the present for what happened in the past, and then they're stuck where they can't grow to actually change the future. So think about that. He said, you got used to us being successful. A lot of us block our own blessings because we don't think that we can do it because we're looking at the excuses. And Muhammad Ali didn't care about that. He just wanted to be around good people, but he did represent what he wanted to represent. And Master P, and based on what he said, he wants more African American owned tennis shoe companies. He doesn't want it just to be him. He wants so many different product brands owned, right? Making it for everybody. Because when other cultures make products, making it for everybody is beautiful. And if we could change that mindset, that's what we're going to bridge the wealth gap amongst many communities, amongst a multitude of races, which is the beauty of America, which is what I loved and took from that. And when you see that, right, we have to educate ourselves, and we got to get on the page of getting out of that mindset. And when you see that and how we support each other and love on each other, and usually, as you heard from Umar Johnson, who's on the screen, right? And it's that individuals don't want to support each other when it comes to small businesses like they used to anymore. And the majority of the customer base were people that actually still wanted to preserve the beauty of small mom and pop shops, but it's not that many anymore. So individuals would rather shun each other and backstab each other and talk to each other down and be destructive minded instead of supporting each other and growing together. So when you see all that, the Jewish population, Asian, Indian populations, that crabs in the barrel mentality, that's a crab in a bucket mentality, right? The truth nobody wants to talk about, what Umar Johnson just said. You're sitting here talking, he mentioned black folks talking about reparations and wanted to be old for racism, which we're freer today than ever. And most people that endured that isn't really no longer here, or is not really much of them left who endured the racism back in slavery time. You're so busy worrying about running in the Victim Olympics, and he used the example of this, right?
Can I ask y'all a question? Why y'all in here arguing over reparations when y'all done turned my people into $1 trillion nation?
He mentioned Koreans. Why are y'all arguing about that when y'all done turned my people, as he referring to Koreans, into $1 trillion business? If you just have the mindset, you can do it, family. But it gets even more comfortable because you have people out here that will purchase and buy all the things they wanted, but will cry, boo-hoo, whine, and complain about reparations, right? We just watched $1 million be raised for Carmelo Anthony, a person who committed a heinous act. $1 million. Think about what $1 million could have done for young, up-and-coming, inspiring entrepreneurs for the next generation. That could have been 2 grants for a business. It could have been $40, $50, $10,000 grants for businesses. So it's not a situation where folks don't have money. That's not the case. Folks don't use the money properly. And that's what Umar Johnson was saying here on the screen. Now as we go to the next clip with Master P again.
Y'all, for the ones in the back that can't hear, stop making them false narratives. I love my people. When you talk about slavery, our ancestors been through so much and we're not going to forget it. You know what I'm saying? But what I want to tell y'all is, even though we're going to always be aware of it, but we have to do something to bridge the wealth gap. That's what I'm saying. We can't change the past, but we can change the future. And we're going to constantly fight and educate our people. But I want to let y'all know, Apple is making $32 million an hour. How do we get a piece of that? Because we need to be able to bridge the wealth gap. That's the only thing I'm saying. And that's the only way it's going to happen. We got to educate our people, to educate our culture. And that's what I'm doing.
Really the biggest victims that I know. Literally the biggest victims that I can even come to mind. And our group of white people can't get on a train where there's a black person without it being this terrifying experience. Black people of today have not been in Jim Crow, have, I mean, there's probably a few that have experienced Jim Crow, but for the most part, black people have not experienced Jim Crow, haven't experienced any sort of slavery. They haven't, like, it just doesn't really happen. Like, there are the nuanced anomalies in which it does, but for the most part, 95% of black people are not experiencing oppression. You live in America. Like, I hope that gets in your head.
The warning of Booker T. Washington. Black Americans were doing best in this country before the civil rights movement of the 60s under Martin Luther King. We were thriving and prosperous in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, and even the 50s under the leadership of men like Booker T. Washington, who emphasized on self-reliance, on hard work, on family structure, on building our own businesses and ownership. And under this type of leadership and ideology, which was actually Republican ideology because Booker T. Washington was a Republican, Black Americans built prosperous economies and cities all around America where we owned the land, we owned every house and every business on the land. These were known as the Black Wall Streets. You're probably familiar with that term. Well, this just wasn't one place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. These Black Wall Streets were all around America. When black people were not focused on what the government can do for us, feeling inadequate and feeling like we can't get ahead, we were focused on what we could do for ourselves. Booker T. Washington must have been a prophet because he released a warning of something that he seen coming. This warning was about the worst threat to what Black Americans had built for themselves. There is another class of colored people who make a business of keeping the troubles, the wrongs, and the hardships of the Negro race before the public. Having learned that they are able to make a living out of their troubles, they have grown into the settled habit of advertising their wrongs, partly because they want sympathy and partly because it pays. Some of these people do not want the Negro to lose his grievances because they do not want to lose their jobs. Does this type of warning, this type of message, and these type of people sound familiar? Because this is exactly what took place in the civil rights movement in the 60s. This was the message that was being pushed by black leaders, namely by Martin Luther King.
America freed the slaves in 1863 through the Emancipation Proclamation of Abraham Lincoln, but gave the slaves no land or nothing in reality, and as a matter of fact, to get started on. And so emancipation for the Negro was really freedom to hunger. It was freedom to the winds and rains of heaven. It was freedom without food to eat or land to cultivate, and therefore it was freedom and famine at the same time. And when white Americans tell the Negro to lift himself by his own bootstraps, they don't look over the legacy of slavery and segregation. I believe we ought to do all we can and seek to lift ourselves by our own bootstraps. But it's a cruel jest to say to a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And many Negroes, by the thousands and millions, have been left bootless as a result of all of these years of oppression.
You see, these successful and thriving black economies were destroyed by white mobs. And the white mobs were a part of the Democratic Party. They destroyed the black independence and black self-sufficiency, only for a few decades later for Booker T. Washington's warning to come to pass, and for MLK to push this message that would cause black Americans to realign from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party.
So think about it in simple terms, right? What do children do? They spend their money on things that they like and they beg their parents for what they need, right? You heard that in one of the clips. Look, isn't that some of America? $2 billion on Air Jordans every year, $4 billion on liquor, $30 billion on hair and beauty, nearly $1 billion on chicken, turkey, beef, and pork. Ain't nothing wrong with upholstery. Get your meats, get your food, meal prep. But what I'm saying is multiple billion on video games. And don't get me wrong, content creation is beautiful. It creates an avenue where you can actually take care of your family and make it a career off of gaming within that. But, you know, what I'm saying is what you usually see now with this day and age with modern technology and social media, instant gratification is really on steroids. And multiple million on appearances and designer clothes and things that are materialistic, but not things that are actually will last you a lifetime, such as skills and things that will carry you for the rest of your life, like reading, our education system, right? Actually knowing our history. I'm not sure if kids even know the 4 branches of government. right? Critical thinking isn't exercised or emphasized as much. Reward system and participation trophies and points have been more emphasized than actual real life applied lessons and incorporated in academics. But nobody wants to have that conversation, but it's the truth, right? Now, when you see all of that, right, and you look at these things, as long as leaders are talking power to the people, fist in the air, coddling your feelings, and not chastising your bad decisions, your poor spending habits, you're okay with it. But as soon as somebody starts keeping it real with you, folks got everything to say. Just like what happened with Master P. You had people online that got in their feelings about what Master P had to say so much that he had to come and make a video and say, look, I'm talking about bridging the wealth gap. And he mentioned Apple as an example in one of the clips, right? Which is outrageous to me. A successful man by any measure who has created and sold a business worth hundreds of millions of dollars, created clothing line, sneakers, food, done all kinds of things. And because he's telling folks, hey, you cannot focus on the past, you can't do anything about it, but you can focus on what's happening in the future. Especially when you hear 2.1 trillion in spending power, people get mad. But with truth come conviction. So it ain't a situation where folks don't have money. They can raise money for all kinds of things. But you can't invest in a business. You can't support your local communities, your brothers and sisters, regardless of race. We are all brothers and sisters to me, as we're all on this earth just trying to figure it out. It be individuals who aren't your family and a stranger that love and support you more than your own family. So I just say we are brothers and sisters. But the family isn't what you're born into biologically, is what you make it. And for those who really rock with you in the direction you're going, with unconditional love. But people get mad for telling the truth and mad at this Master P for telling the truth. And a lot of these truths in these clips, right? Anybody that gets out here and starts speaking truth, you have victim-minded individuals that are going to try to tear the individuals down that tell the truth. And that's why Master P created that video. That's why you heard this video of the slavery mentality that was actually debunked. Because I fell victim to it. Victim Olympics, right? And once you educate yourself, see, a lot of us perish for lack of education. But when you use critical thinking and actually ask questions, and Google is free, and there's nothing wrong with absorbing their different perspectives, but do your own research to verify. The whole time I always knew that Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. He freed the slaves. But then I always had been told, just from hearing people that I had deemed close to me, say that the Democratic Party, for example, is the one that give out the most money, but actually hurts us, which, as you've seen within our people, see, the Democratic Party just ain't hurting black people, it's hurting America. You know, that's why it's bigger than just one race. But I'm using these conversations as a premise to speak to the entirety of all of us as a whole and as a country and as a people. And when you look at that, because that's what I stand for, I don't care about this race rhetoric. I hate it. You know, and I shouldn't say hate, I disapprove it, but I don't like it. The best way to stop racism and division and destruction is to not feed into it. But I have to speak on it in truth and conviction the right way for us as a people. And I was told, oh, the Democrats help out the most. They give the most money in the name of scamming and fraud. And I was used to think, oh, they're just helping. You know, they're helping those who are down in their luck, and the Republicans don't want to. I had it all misconstrued. They were helping in the name of nonprofits, and helping as if they made it as though they were helping, but in the back end, they were actually scheming and plotting to prop themselves up for self-enrichment, but not actually serving the people. It became party over people and self-interest over actually serving the constituents, let alone citizens who voted them in their positions within their districts and so forth. So I had to uneducate, go back and relearn the truth. Right? And they're hurting us as a country. With the inflation didn't just come overnight. So much money being printed in the name of these scandalous things. Stealing from taxpayers, American taxpayers, us as the people. So when you see individuals, and the whole time, the Democrat Party was the party of the KKK. It was never Republicans. Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, but I always thought that after Abraham Lincoln, the Republicans, the ones that changed over and were the ones that had a change of heart and it was against helping the needy, helping the unfortunate, when they were really for less taxation, lower inflation, being able to live, spend time with your family, upholding the family structure, giving more opportunity, increasing the wages and giving you opportunities to increase your skill set to make more money and have more money in your pocket and not in the name of taxation take it out where your hard-earned money because you decide to get off your behind has to be somebody's lifeline who wants to sit there and make welfare a lifestyle but do nothing for themselves because they want everything in the name of free. So they want American taxpayers to pay taxes and more taxes while they work their behinds off to put into the system that is funding welfare, which they think is free because they're not working. They're sitting there behind, but it's another American taxpayer and taxpayers that work who are getting taxed to death in the name of taxation to fund that thing because nothing is free. And I'm like, wow, that's horrible, right? You're basically, and I see an example. Those who don't work get free health care. But those who may be working a low-income job where they're still figuring out, but they're still getting up every morning and working that job and making the best of it while they continue to build themselves up and getting a skill and going to school, they can't even get health care. They can make a salary of $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 a year. Oh, that's too much money. But those who don't even try to work or do something for themselves get free everything, free health care. And the one who is working with the $25,000, $30,000 salary, they don't get any help, but they're the one that's paying to fund the one who doesn't want to do anything with themselves. It's crazy, man. So I had to learn that, right? So when you see all of these things and these nuanced anomalies, but 95% of people are black people, in this case, speaking to their example, are not experiencing oppression. We live in America, freer than ever. Majority of people aren't experiencing oppression. Just poor decisions. And also elected officials that we need to hold accountable. This is why I do what I do. So we can have these productive conversations that would then click and let a light bulb go on our head to then go in the right direction, informing with truth, and then going and seek and verifying your own as well. Because I'm not telling you what to think or how to think. This ain't about Democrat or Republican for me. Just making sure we're on the right side of history. I have a kid, right? The next generation. Lowering taxation, creating more opportunity. Small businesses are the one that employ the most of Americans. So rather it's having children early out of wedlock, which plays a part, but it happens. But you can still, we're in America, you can still build yourself up, right? Support, things like that. Multiple children, multiple women, or multiple men, just out here just freely. Because the government, will help you in the name of being sympathetic. Where they will say, okay, we can help the woman more if the man wasn't in the house that she created those kids and family with. Dividing the family. Not taking education seriously. Not investing in the proper things. Speaking of investing in the proper things, let's talk about these Trump accounts. Before I get to it, I want you guys to see these clips.
Do not open a Trump account. Do this instead. Because there's a trap hidden in the fine print that financial advisors aren't telling you. And it could cost your kid thousands of dollars by the time they turn 18. While Nicki Minaj was holding your president's hand, I got the tea. Trump accounts are investment accounts opening July 2026. Any child under the age of 18 can open one. But if your child was born between 2025 and 2028, the government is going to deposit $1,000 into an investment account for them. Now, if your kid is under the age of 10 and you live in a qualifying zip code, Dell will deposit $250 into the investment account. Opening a Trump account is quite easy. You're going to file Form 4547 during your 2025 tax return. Then you can add up to $5,000 per year after that. Come on, lean in here, because here's the trap. Okay? All the money that your kid earns within a Trump account is going to be taxed when your kid withdraws. And after 18 years of compounded growth, That's a significant amount of money. And if your kid is earning a lot of money by the time they reach 59 and a half, and that's what you're hoping, that's a lot of money to be taxed on. So this is what smart parents do. Just maybe you go over there with Nikki and get that $1,000. Then put $50 a month in a 529, where earnings grow tax-free for qualified educational expenses. Then put $50 a month in a custodial Roth IRA, where earnings also grow tax-free. Then you're going to choose low-cost index funds like SPY and VOO. And in 18 years, those accounts collectively will have about $60,000.
All right, family. Here goes another clip in regards of a Trump account.
About this because millions of parents are turning down a free $1,000 for their kids simply because they don't like the name on the account. Because data shows that 26% of parents are opting out of their Trump accounts. Look, I get it if you don't support the current administration. I'm not here to be political or tell you who to vote for. But what I am here to tell you is that it's going to be a very costly mistake if you don't do it for your child. Look, it's a free $1,000 that the government is handing you to your child. It's like refusing a tax refund. I've never heard of anyone turning down free money. And it's not even just a free $1,000. Assuming you max it out at $5,000 per year until your child turns 18 years old, that'll turn into $250,000. So are you going to tell me that you're going to intentionally play life on hard mode and turn down a clear opportunity for your child to have $250,000 simply because of your ego?
Now you even have Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, vouching for this. And he's one of the most Trump haters, the most biggest critic, dislikes Trump and is entirely advocating for these Trump accounts. Mind you, mind-blowing, right? But the way he had poor governing and does a horrible job and has done a horrible job governing California, he even vouched for this.
That he completely supports this and that he thinks it's the best thing President Trump has ever done. Watch.
I'm enthusiastic about encouraging people to get a Trump account. I think it's incredibly important. It's one of the best things he's done. And so we're here to encourage people to take advantage of this, to not fall prey to the politics or the cynicism or maybe even the fear that if I download a Trump account, somehow that means something. It doesn't. It just means something for your kid. It's not Trump's money. It's your child's money.
Now you heard Gavin Newsom talk about the Trump accounts. Booker T. Washington, right, who you see on the screen right now, and I put back on the screen. He tried to give people the game even to this day, right? Speaking of black people, since we're going to speak on the premise of Master P and what's being spoke about, but I'm going to take it a step further and take it to what I stand for, which is for all of us, no matter what race, as a whole, as people, and the beauty of the United States of America, which I stand for, this whole country, no matter what your race is. But let's say, for example, just for topic's sake, what's been spewed in the rhetoric, speaking to what these individuals have been speaking to, such as specifically black people, as I speak for all people saying this stuff. Black Americans, right? You have black people, Booker T. Washington tried to give people the game. Even to this day, you have black people calling them out. Black Americans were doing best in this country before the civil rights movement of the 60s under Martin Luther King. We were thriving and prosperous in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, even the 50s under the leadership of men like Booker T. Washington, who you see on the screen, who emphasized self-reliance, hard work, family structure, building your own businesses and ownership. And under this type of leadership, which was actually a Republican ideology, which I told you I had to learn and unlearn what was wrong about Republicans and who really basically pushed for the racism and division, who is still pushing for it today as history repeats itself, which is the Democratic Party with the whole KKK. Republican ideology, when it came to that, Booker T. Washington was a Republican. Black Americans built prosperous economies in cities all around America. They owned land, they owned houses, they owned business on the land. They were known as the Black Wall Streets, you heard, right? And this wasn't just one place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. These Black Wall Streets were all over around America when black people were not focused on what the government can do for them. Handouts, I talked about feeling inadequate and feeling like they can't get ahead. They were focused on what they could do for themselves. And Booker T. Washington must have been a prophet because he released a warning, as you heard in this clip, about something he saw coming. He said there's another class of individuals, colored people, he said, who make a business of keeping the troubles, the wrongs, and the hardships of quote-unquote Negro race before the public. Having learned that they are able to make living out of their troubles, they have grown into the settled habit of advertising their wrongs. partly because they want sympathy and partly because it pays. And that could go for any race, right? How many times, family, let me know in the comments, have you seen individuals who make a living out of their troubles? Everything is troublesome, and they've grown into the habit of advertising their wrong and always being sympathetic and always coming off sympathetic for those basically feel bad for them, so it pays. You see what I'm saying? That's why I speak for all people. But when you look at that, right, as Booker T. Washington was saying, some of these people don't want, as he say, the Negro, quote unquote, to lose his grievances because they don't want to lose their jobs. Sound familiar? Because this is exactly what took place in the civil rights movement in the 60s. This was the message that was being pushed by black leaders, namely by Martin Luther King. America freed slaves in 1863 through the Emancipation Proclamation of Abraham Lincoln, who I mentioned, but gave the slaves no land or nothing in reality to get started on. Emancipation for the Negro, quote unquote, was really freedom to hunger, and it was freedom without food to eat or land to cultivate. It was freedom and famine at the same time. And these successful, thriving black economies were destroyed by mobs who were part of the Democratic Party, who I said basically funded the KKK, as I have come to educate myself. And like I say, if I'm happen to be wrong, I'm always open to possibly being wrong. We just having a productive conversation. But that's as far as what I know. As you see today, the Democrats were basically funding the Southern Poverty Learning Center to create racial narratives in which the Southern Poverty Law Center, sorry fam, I got tongue-tied, were supposed to be fighting racial situations to basically help us as a country stay on the right side of things, overcoming race, right? You're creating a problem manufactured of issues that the nonprofit is supposed to be helping, which is getting rid of racism and bringing us together. But you're making a problem in the first place and acting like you're coming up with the solution to keep division going. So only for a few decades later for Booker T. Washington's warning to come past and for MLK to push this message that will cause black Americans to realign from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party, and it's no longer Martin Luther King and Jesse Jackson. Now it's the Don Lemons, the DL Hughleys I mentioned, the Al Sharptons, the Ben Crumps, and the Angela Rye's, the Tiffany Crosses, and the Dominique Alexanders, and so forth. And the list goes on and on, because the race hustle industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and all these people are millionaires, multimillionaires, telling other black folks that you can't make it, don't even attempt to make it. And here's where it gets frustrating, because our president offered Trump accounts for young people. Beautiful, right? And if you have children that are born from 2025 to 2028, you get free $1,000 deposited into an investment, right? For them. And you have individuals out here telling other individuals don't get those, making it a race thing and saying, oh, black folks out here telling other black folks don't get those Trump accounts, which is mind blowing, as you've seen, right? And it's a free $1,000 and you're telling folks not to get it. Somebody said, do not open a Trump account, do this instead, because there's a trap hidden in the fine print. You heard her. All the money that your kid earns with a Trump account is going to be taxed when your kid withdraws. But the lack of knowledge will make you perish, because the reason why the money is going to be taxed is because it's pre-tax money going into these accounts. No different from a 401k. So don't invest in your 401k because you pull money out of that later. The whole thing is you save money. You put money in investment now and you invest wisely. So at the time you retire, you won't have to struggle, because due to delayed gratification, you're letting your money work for you, which will save you in the long haul. So you then, as you continue to go in older age and continue to get older, you then can rest as you have put in your work in the workforce. And now you can retire peacefully, you can retire peacefully while being able to maintain the things you have and not be taken away from you, because you have made the wise decisions and letting your money pay for your future, such as when you retire. You understand how crazy that sounds, though? To not invest in that Trump account? Make wise investments with your money, and your money will save you, right? 18 years of compounded growth is in a Trump account. The money goes in there as the stock market. You invest in the S&P 50, S&P 500, sorry, family, which is the 500 best companies. As they grow, you'll make passive income, make money in your sleep. Because you can't beat the rate of inflation working. You have to have passive income and wise investments, income producing assets that work to beat the rate of inflation. And that's multiple investments that have buckets of monies anywhere you can pull from that can then save you in due time. So then you continue to maintain and sustain a life, and even far greater to remain prosperous when you leave the workforce. Right? So that's the beauty of it. But ignorance will tell you different. You see where I'm going, family? And then you have this mentality that keeps getting put up. Oh, Trump is a racist. He refused black tenants back then. He didn't refuse black tenants. He housed Jennifer Hudson. He housed R. Kelly, an artist. Housed multiple He helped fund a lot of many black businesses. He just disliked the behavior when it came to his Trump Tower, in which there were ghetto-fied behavior, which I mentioned could go for any race, that's unacceptable in his lobby out of respect for his tenants who worked their behinds off to be able to live in Trump Towers and be at peace. A lot of people work hard to enjoy the luxury of peace. See, peace isn't just given to you. You work hard so you don't live in an inner city that's broken and the education system is in shambles, unfortunately, due to the fraud, scheming, and our politicians making poor decisions, which is affecting our kids today, not being able to read and write, or write in cursive, or write a signature. So then if you make the wise investments and you put in the work now, you'll have an easier life later. But if you have an easy life now, you'll have a harder life later. So then the luxury of peace, see, what real successful people value is peace, because you can be creative in peace, not in chaos. Right? So then if Trump Towers is a peaceful, luxurious apartment condominium place like Trump Tower, why would you want individuals in your lobby acting a fool or knuckleheads, and you worked hard to pay for that condominium, and you just want peace and the safety and the sanctity of your home after you've been out in the world, not promised if you're going to come back home that day or to that condominium? So it had nothing to do with refusing tenants, black tenants, quote unquote. It's just ignorance and destruction to a business. In that case, properties and tenants and property management. So then they run to the Victim Olympics, into that victim mentality, and using race as division, which is also a hustle that can be compensated based off of sympathy. And I'll play this last clip when it comes to that and slavery and all those things. Because to be honest, those who have also mentioned slavery, and they always make it a black and white thing, slavery just destroyed America as a whole within division and making it a race thing and turn us against each other, even to the same race that it was supposedly individuals continue to run on in the Victim Olympics to race bait and act like they're helping a certain race, which is black people. Actually, that same slavery took effect not just to hurt black people, but also amongst black people hurting each other. And then also it didn't help us as a country, because then it's just fueling hatred amongst a multitude of all of us as races, blacks, Hispanics, white, just a whole thing of division that's in chaos. Is just not good for our beautiful land of the United States of America. You hear what I'm saying, family? So I want you guys to see this last clip.
I had a black guy named Anthony Johnson. Anthony Johnson came to the United States in 1621. Came in from England as a free black. And head rights in those days says anybody coming to the country can get 640 acres free right off the bat. Then plus you can get another 500 to 600 acres for every slave that you own. He immediately went and had 13 blacks. So within a few years, about 15 years, he was one of the richest blacks in the colonies. Now, going up to 1638, he had all kinds of land and a whole bunch of slaves, getting close to about 70, 80 slaves now. And a white guy went over to one of his plantations. And one of the black slaves there, named John Castor, says, why am I a slave here with this guy? He says he owns me for life. And the white fellow, who was a plantation owner, also said, look, he doesn't own you for life. Indentured servantship normally runs 5 or 7 years. What do you mean he's got you for life? This black guy said, I've been working for this black slave plantation owner for almost 27 years. The guy said, well, just run off and leave. Forget about him. You don't have to keep working for him. So the black slave, John Castor, ran off. Anthony Johnson then went to court, and he sued the white plantation owner who had encouraged the black to run off. And the court accepted Anthony Johnson's claim against this black slave, saying that he owned that slave for life. Now, what happened there never had ever happened on the history of the earth with black folk and in this country.
where all of a sudden a person laid claims against the individual for the rest of his entire naked life. And it was a black man. And once that court decision was made, whites picked it up. That became the enslavement codes, both explicitly and implicitly. And all the states began to enact it then, based on Anthony Johnson's ruling in court that he owns another black.
Bible verse, Proverbs chapter 14, verse 23. All hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. This verse cuts right to the heart of everything we just talked about. You can have all the conversation in the world about what was done to you, who owes you, what the system took from you, but talk don't build nothing. Work does. The race hustle industry runs on talk, keeping you in a loop of conversation that never turns into action. But the people who actually made it, the Master P's, the artists you've seen of the world, hardworking individuals, off the back of the beauty of which makes America our beautiful country. They put the work behind the word. Small pop shops, small businesses, mom and pop shops. And the scripture says it plain, talk leads to poverty, not because of racism, because talking don't produce nothing. And for those who are non-spiritual, my non-spiritual family, you can't build a business with one hand and point at the past with the other. Let go of what was done to you long enough to build something that outlasts you. The wealth gap isn't closed by arguments, it's closed by assets. And I'll leave that there, family. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on your post notifications. Spread that peace, love, and positivity, and let the love supersede hate, family. Peace.